What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dungeon Master Experience. In this video, we're diving into the fantastic Dungeon Master Experience articles by Chris Perkins. He's one of the lead designers of Dungeons & Dragons. We'll explore his invaluable insights and advice to enhance your skills as a Dungeon Master and create unforgettable D&D experiences for your players. What's up, y'all? I'm back again for the next part of this ongoing series. As always, this is my first read-through of this article, and I'll give you my authentic reactions and thoughts as I have them while we read through it together. These Dungeon Master Experience blog posts were written in the 4th edition era of Dungeons & Dragons, and they are no longer publicly available on the Wizards.com website or anywhere official anymore. However, I did get my hands on them, and I plan to read through them, so I thought I may as well record it and share it as I do so. Anyway, this article is called Epic Fail, and it's from August 18th, 2011. And here we go. Wednesday night. A legendary cutlass has fallen into the hands of the Dragonborn warlord Vantajar, one of the campaign's major villains. He's a level 30 solo brute with an elemental warship, a crew of epic pirates, and a half-dozen storm giant mercenaries riding thundercloud chariots. Seeking the cutlass for themselves, the adventurers board Vantajar's vessel and engage their hated foe head-on, despite the fact that they're only 24th level and are outnumbered 7-1. Side note, I guess you could go to level 30 in 4th edition, so 24th level isn't maxed down, I guess. As the storm giants hurl lightning bolts at the party's spellcasters, Vantajar brings his cutlass down on Kale, the party cleric, dropping him dangerously close to his negative bloodied value. With their own ship too far away to render assistance, the heroes are in dire straits. Failure is not an option, it's inevitable. So we open up here with a battle scene where it looks like the party is in over their heads, and they're in a downward failure spiral. So I would take it to mean that this article, especially when you look at the title of Epic Fail, this article is going to be about what happens when the party runs into a potential TPK situation, or it just looks like they're gonna lose. So we'll see if this article brings up things like the Dungeon Master saving the party out of the goodness of his heart, or bringing in like a DMPC to save the day. Maybe the party all get thrown in jail instead of wiped out. We'll see what this article has to say about party TPK and party failure. I think that's pretty much going to be the gist of this article. So let's read on. Never underestimate the resourcefulness of good players. When things look grim, when the cold eyes of death seem fixed on their characters, they somehow find a way to turn certain defeat into victory. One of the players might figure out a way to regain a spent power or healing surge. Another might whip out that half-forgotten magic item or plot detail that can tip the scales in the party's favor. Many times have I stacked the odds against my players and watched them frantically search their character sheets and campaign notes for something, anything to turn the tide. Yeah, that's a common one. When you're really in over it, you're looking back and it's like, can I use this jar of water making, or my flute that summons the rats, or you're just looking for that one trash magic item that maybe we could just come up with something to get us out of this. And really, that is the peak of D&D, is when you're searching your character sheet for a way out. Continuing on, and even when nothing presents itself, there's always a chance that their luck could change, that their cold dice might suddenly turn red hot. Hell, I've seen player characters call out to the gods, throwing themselves at my mercy, and on rare occasions, I've allowed the gods to toss them a bone, particularly if they've earned it. Not this time. The Wednesday night characters have thrown caution to the wind and acted rashly, and they're doomed to break like waves upon the rocks. At least, that's what I'm expecting will happen. Even as I write this column, the battle is still playing out. However, it's safe to say that I've stacked the deck against them. How could I not? Throughout the entire campaign, Vantajar has been touted as a supreme badass, a legendary renegade who surfaces like a giant shark in the nightmares of Child and Sea King alike. What makes good drama? In a word, failure. You can't have drama if the heroes never fail. Looking at you, 5th edition. We all know the story of the good guy who faces the bad guy before he's ready and gets his ass kicked. What usually happens next is that the good guy deals with the consequences of his failure, learns a valuable lesson, gathers his wits and self-confidence, and delivers the villain's comeuppance. The story's an oldie, but a goodie. The first article in this series, Surprise, Epic Goblins, link in the description, talked about how using lower level challenges to make the player characters feel powerful. It should come as no surprise that higher level challenges have their place in the game as well. I use them all the time, not to be cruel, but to reinforce the notion that some challenges aren't balanced for the hero's level. It forces the players to switch gears, try different tactics, and rely on more than their swords and spells. It also makes the campaign world a scary place, even to epic level characters. This is an important point, and I think a lot of people kind of know this, but if the player characters go out and they know that every single encounter is balanced for their level, it expects that there's 4 third level characters, and then it takes the challenge rating and it makes sure that it's perfectly balanced. If that happens every time, it really takes some of the suspense out of the game and really makes the game world seem more like a game world rather than a world that you're living in that has, weak encounters and strong encounters. And if you go up and you see let's say a dragon, when you're not ready for it, then, well, you're not ready for it. You need to sneak around, sneak away, run away, that kind of thing. Continuing on with the article, it's my job as the Dungeon Master to make sure that the hero's failure doesn't spell the end of the campaign. If the Wednesday group prevails against all odds, I'll have to work harder the next time they come face to face with a major campaign villain. If Vantajar defeats them, the campaign isn't over, for I've concocted a logical reason why he'd want to keep his enemies alive. Here's a behind-the-curtains glimpse of what I'm thinking, to give you an idea of the thought process that went into planning the likely outcome of the hero's failure. Vantajar desires to use the legendary cutlass to unite the Sea Kings, the merchant lords of Iomandra, under his banner. Once the old feuds are cast aside, he will command a navy greater than that of the Dragovar Empire, and he plans to use it to himself become the emperor. However, he needs to present the cutlass before the Eye of the Kraken, an artifact hidden in the island fortress of Krakenholt, and be judged worthy of its power. Only then will the Sea Kings kneel before him. Chris Young's tiefling character, Demos, is better known as Sea King Impstinger, and the supremely arrogant Vantajar wants to see his enemy broken and forced into servitude like all the other Sea Kings. To kill Demos and his companions now would deny Vantajar an even greater victory, not to mention the ships under Sea King Impstinger's command. In the event of their defeat, the characters will be knocked unconscious, deprived of their gear, and hauled to Krakenholt. There it is, they go to jail. Yeah, that's the common DM trick. En route, a generous helping of torture will deprive them of their healing surges and any ability to take short rests or extended rests. Without their precious magic items and their encounter and daily powers, the heroes will be hard-pressed to threaten Vantajar directly. And yet, I can imagine all sorts of reversals. They might convince a disloyal crew member to return a useful magic item, such as a sending stone. Maybe they'll ride out the journey and take their revenge as Vantajar presents the cutlass to the Eye of the Kraken. If all else fails, perhaps fate will intervene on their behalf. Maybe Vantajar is attacked en route by a Sea King determined to stop his ascendancy, and the resulting battle affords the heroes a chance to reclaim their gear and win their freedom. Or maybe the Eye of the Kraken will judge the evil warlord to be unworthy of the cutlass, denying him his destiny. Villains become much more interesting when things don't go their way. They are, after all, dark reflections of the heroes. So that basically captured my 2 predictions there, sending the characters to jail when they lose the battle, and also having another Dungeon Master NPC type character swoop in and kind of save the day. This is actually an interesting take on it, because it has another Sea King who's not necessarily allied with the players or helping the players, attacking the bad guy while the players are in, the ship. So it gives them a chance to escape, which that's actually a pretty cool take on it, because it seems more natural and less like, oh, I'm here to help you, or Gandalf swooping in over the hill, that kind of thing. Lessons learned. Sometimes a dungeon master has to be cruel to be kind. Sometimes, for the sake of suspense and good drama, you have to drive the heroes into the dirt so that they can pick themselves back up, sharpen their game and their blades, and stage a storybook comeback, becoming even more powerful than when they had faced defeat. Here are some helpful tips to guide you. Be transparent. Give your players hints that they might be in over their heads. It's okay to set the characters up for failure, just don't be surprised if they succeed. If you expect the characters to fail, and they fail, know where to take the story from there. 3 very important points, I think they speak for themselves. Having the players just stumble upon a room with creatures that are way more powerful than they can handle isn't necessarily the best. But if you have them meet a very powerful party of adventurers that are more powerful than them, And then later on in the evening, they're approaching a monster's lair, and then they see the broken corpses of the powerful party scattered across the ground. Perhaps, and then they would know, oh, there's something in there that's took them down. There's no way we can handle it, that kind of thing. And then also these other tips that are all about, don't be surprised if they succeed. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not running a railroad here. So if they do come up with something clever, you know, they came up with something clever, maybe they got some good dice rolls. And then the other one is, if they do fail, as you suspect, you need to know where to take the story. So you do need to have a plan for what's going to happen. And the most common ones are, you know, the players get captured instead of killed, or some third party comes in to change the dynamic of the situation. But there's probably many others that could be thought of. Continuing on. Many players don't like it when their heroes fail, die, or both, especially when it happens during an unfair encounter, quote unquote. My players understand that I'm not on a quest to annihilate their characters or make them feel like useless tools, and so should yours. In classic and modern fiction, heroes rise, fall, and rise again. The unfair encounter is something you can use occasionally, emphasis on occasionally, to rouse your players and propel your campaign in interesting new directions. If your players are unaccustomed to being trounced, and you're worried that they might turn against you, you could do worse than to sow the seeds of their eventual comeback. Tell the players how much you're looking forward to seeing how they remedy their character's latest misfortune, and plant a few hints as to how they might succeed next time. Maybe the villain's subordinates are badly treated and could be turned against him. Maybe the heroes can discover a weakness to exploit. Maybe the villain lets down his guard and makes a classic blunder of overconfidence. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Just as the best heroes have faults, so too do the best villains. We'll tackle this subject in next week's column, and I'll pull a few examples not only from the Iomander campaign, but also from the adventure I have in store for Acquisitions Incorporated at this year's live D&D game at PAX 2011. Stay tuned. Until the next encounter. Well, there you have it. That's the article called Epic Fail. I hope you gained some insight into Chris Perkins' mindset of running D&D when he wrote that in 2011. The next article in this series is called The Villain's Fault, and I'll cover that in my next video in this series. If you enjoy this series of me reading these ancient articles from way back when, go ahead and leave a like and check out the rest of the videos in the playlist. Until then, see ya.
Yo, step into the dungeon where the dice roll deep, critical hits in the crypts where the shadows creep. Straight out the dungeon where the campaigns never sleep. Bards in the back with the beats they speak. Dragons flying high, scales like steel. Treasure chest glinting, look at the appeal. Wizards waving wands, casting spells. Surreal rogues in the shadows, keeping it all concealed. Straight out the dungeon, it's the quest we chase. Rolling nat 20s in this fantasy space. From beholder's eyes to a goblin's face. On this tabletop, where the ace embrace the race.